Christmas might not be what you think it is. Part Christian festival, part pagan barbecue, part secular free-for-all. For thousands of years, winter revelry has been observed, evolving through the centuries to incorporate little knickknacks from all over the place and forming the event we know today. It's a convergence of ideas, with stockings, decorations, trees, advent calendars, reindeer, a white beard and a red suit, now arguably more frequently referenced aspects of the holiday season than the birth of a Christian deity. And while the countries that keep Christmas share common threads, Yuletide protocols contrast starkly from place to place. Genesis. What we now know as Christmas began as a farming ritual held in midwinter to celebrate the solstice, the shortest day of the year, as well as to consume surplus animal stock and alcohol that had fermented nicely after the harvest a few months before. This is sands of time stuff, going back into prehistory with Neolithic people who exchanged gifts of pottery, fancy weapons and even jewellery. Early Romans morphed this happy time into an event they called Saturnalia, an annual mid-December hat tip to Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture. As well as gifting, there was gambling and feasting. Plus, in a nice/cruel detail, masters role swap with their slaves, providing them with table service and generally treating them as equals, for a bit. In the 2nd century BCE, Saturnalia was extended into a week-long affair, ending on the eve of the solstice, which in the Julian calendar falls on the 25th of December. Other groups got in on the action. In Northern Europe, Germanic people enjoyed heathen hunts, celebrations of the god Odin, and Modrenicht, or Night of the Mothers, held by Anglo-Saxon pagans on what we now call Christmas Eve. Aspects of these ideas coalesced to create the festival of Yule, Yol, or Hogmanay, as it was known to the Norse people. Modern-day Christmas traditions emerged, including the decorating of evergreen trees, the ornamental use of light and fire, plus an early appearance of the Yule log, not chocolate, but a big lump of wood to be kept burning during the celebrations. As Christianity spread, gradually converting everyone from the Romans to the Angles and the Saxons, Christmas, literally Christ's Mass, was intentionally aligned with these festivals to grease the wheels of conversion, adopting and absorbing customs and practices to keep everyone happy. In the 4th century CE, the Roman Catholic Church selected the 25th of December as the ideal day to celebrate. This is probably not Jesus' true birthday, which is unknown because the events of the Nativity are undated in the Bible. Adolescence. Christmas got out of hand during medieval times. It was elongated to 12 days, culminating on the 6th of January, known as Twelfth Night. Masters and servants role-swapped Saturnalia style, and a Yule log was kept burning throughout. It seems festivities centred on getting impossibly drunk on super-strength ale, and playing rough games like hot cockles, in which a blindfolded person had to guess which of his friends had just slapped him. Bags of fun. The Tudors were less violent, but no less up for a party, with playwrights turning out works for the occasion and games, food and drink aplenty. The soaring popularity of sugar meant everything got sweet treatment, at least in upper-class households, where sugar sculptures adorned the tables of the rich. By now, presents were being swapped on New Year's Day. Christmas was briefly banned by the killjoy Oliver Cromwell, but returned swiftly after his death, and by the Victorian era had taken on a familiar look, thanks largely to just 2 men. Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, and the novelist Charles Dickens. Around 1840, Albert popularised dragging spruce trees into the home, a tradition borrowed from his homeland Germany, and decking them with candles and presents, by now given on the 25th of December. He also reminded Brits of the Germanic tradition of burning a Yule log. Dickens's contribution came in the form of his novella A Christmas Carol, a ghostly redemption story inspired by his own experiences as a boy living in a destitute family. The story was written in just 6 weeks and published on the 19th of December 1843, selling out by Christmas Eve. Before then, Christmas had largely fallen out of favour, associated with peasant revelry in the countryside and rarely observed elsewhere. With A Christmas Carol, it was brought back to cities and the middle classes. The preface encapsulates the idea. I have endeavoured in this ghostly little book to raise the ghost of an idea, which shall not put my readers out of humour with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt their houses pleasantly. The book's sentiments had an immediate and profound impact on people, leading to a huge upswing in charitable giving the following year in 1844. The Stoic essayist Thomas Carlyle's response was to host 2 Christmas dinners 2 days apart, while Robert Louis Stevenson had a Scrooge-like epiphany and began giving generously to the poor. Legend has it that an American businessman promptly shut his factory on Christmas Day and sent each one of his employees home with a turkey, while in the 20th century the Queen of Norway sent gifts to the disadvantaged children of London, signed with Tiny Tim's love. Christmas Q&A. Why do Christmas cards depict snowy scenes? The greater number of people who celebrate Yuletide don't often get to enjoy a white Christmas, yet the cards we exchange often feature a snowy scene. This is because the North Atlantic region experienced a mini ice age between roughly 1300 and 1850. When the first cards were sent by Sir Henry Cole in 1843, white Christmases had been routine, with the River Thames freezing solid enough to hold a fair on it during the winter of 1814. That had happened before, but it's never been repeated since, and the association between Christmas and snow has endured. Who is Santa Claus? Inspiration for Santa Claus comes from the historical figure of St. Nicholas, a 14th century Christian bishop from the maritime city of Myra, then in Greece, now in modern-day Turkey. He was known for his acts of generosity, in particular anonymous gift-giving. Later, Dutch settlers to the New World brought with them the tradition of Sinterklaas, a figure based on St. Nicholas and portrayed as a tall, thin man with a red bishop's robe and a long white beard. Meanwhile, in England, around the time of Henry VIII, a similar St. Nick-inspired character called Father Christmas began to gain popularity. He was depicted as jolly and bearded, wearing a long robe in either red or green. The Clement Clarke Moore poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, otherwise known as The Night Before Christmas, published in 1823, describes Santa as a jolly old elf. Furthermore, he had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. In the late 19th century, illustrations and literary works built on the legend. The German-born American cartoonist Thomas Nast in particular solidified the popular representation of Santa Claus as a plump, bearded man in a red suit smoking a pipe surrounded by stacks of toys. But the true face of Santa Claus wasn't fully standardised until a 1930s marketing campaign by the drinks brand Coca-Cola set in stone his red suit with white fur trim, black boots, beard, and generally jovial demeanour. Why flying reindeer? The sleigh and flying reindeer are another American creation, cropping up in an illustrated poem called Old Santa Claus with Much Delight, published in New York in 1821. In it, Santa wears what seems to be a bearskin, and his presents are labelled rewards, suggesting only good children will be getting gifts. 2 years later, Clement Clarke Moore's poem stated the proper number of reindeer as 8, and gave them their famous names of Dasher, Dancer, Vixen, and so on. Rudolph, the red-nosed ninth reindeer, arrived in 1939, when a copywriter called Robert L. May was given the task of writing a Christmas story for the Chicago-based Montgomery Ward department store to be used as a promotional giveaway to customers. Why do we hang stockings? The tradition of hanging a stocking on the fireplace has its roots in a St. Nicholas legend, which credits him with giving gold ingots to the 3 daughters of a down-and-out merchant to help pay their dowries and enabling them to marry. One version describes him as lobbing the gold through an open window on 3 successive nights, but another suggests he dropped them down the chimney to coincidentally land in stockings that were drying next to the fire. Why is it called Boxing Day? A Victorian invention, Boxing Day was a holiday for the cooks and serving staff who enabled their employers' celebrations on Christmas Day. Its name comes from the tradition of boxing up presents and leftovers for house staff to pass on to their families, so as to enjoy a replica of what they had worked so hard to create for their masters. Also, churches held collections for the poor, with coins dropped into boxes that were opened and the contents distributed the day after Christmas. The rest. Advent calendars started in Germany in the early 1900s, while gingerbread houses are also German, but some credit goes to Elizabeth I's sugar addiction, which helped to popularise decorating gingerbread biscuits in the 16th century. Candy canes are German too, brought to the US in 1847 by a German-Swedish migrant, and eggnog comes from posset, a drink made from curdled milk mixed with ale or wine, which took hold in medieval England. Special mention goes to the 1963 British comedy film Dinner for One, which has inexplicably become traditional viewing on New Year's Eve in many parts of Northern Europe, including in Norway, where it is watched on the 23rd of December. Oddly, this British English language film, with a runtime of just 18 minutes, is rarely watched in the UK. Regional variations. So Christmas is not one thing, but at heart it's a midwinter knees-up that both predates and in some ways transcends Christianity, celebrated kaleidoscopically in different parts of the world. In Japan, KFC, not Coca-Cola, has enjoyed a major cultural impact in recent years, with many families chowing down not on turkey or goose, but a bucket of fried chicken. In parts of Central Europe, carp is on the menu for Christmas dinner, with arch-traditionalists catching live fish and homing them temporarily in the bathtub before tearing into them on the big day. In Greece, they decorate boats as well as trees to give thanks for the return of loved ones from sea voyages. The Ethiopian Orthodox calendar marks Christmas, known as Ghana, on the 7th of January, featuring candlelit processions followed by church, games and food, but less often presents. Germany has popularised Christmas markets. Filipinos go big on Christmas lights. It's piñatas on Christmas Eve in Mexico, and Austrians offset St. Nicholas with a demon called Krampus, a chimera of a man and a goat who drags away naughty children, never to be seen again. Due to it being high summer down under, Australians tend to celebrate with a barbie on the beach, though they still appreciate a rousing rendition of White Christmas. So that's the festive season wrapped up. If you know any facts I've missed, why not stick them in the comments? And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications for more of the good stuff. But most importantly, Merry Christmas, and thanks for watching.